Hello and welcome to Pro Modeler. I'm Philip Flory. This particular video build we're going to be doing is the Tamiya 1/32 scale Spitfire. Now this is the Mark 9C, which is quite a sort of common version of the Spitfire, and obviously there is various versions we can do this in the kit. Tamiya have also released at the same time this kit coming out is the actual paint scheme for this grey scheme. Which are basically colours XF81, 82 and 83, which gives you the right colours for the actual Spitfire itself, which is quite nice. The kit itself is extremely complex. It's one of those ones where you're not going to need any aftermarket parts really, because obviously we've got very detailed engine which can be shown open or closed, which we're going to go through with the build. Very detailed cockpit. There again we're going to take our time and show you exactly how to do that one, as well as what we're going to do with this one is give it a sort of weathered look. This isn't going to be a pristine looking one. We're going to show you how to do pristine, and then I'm going to move on to actually weathering it, where we're going to be doing some weathering with the paints and actually sort of fading them back and giving them some grime and dirt looking to them. It should be a very interesting build, so let's get on with it. Okay, so the kit itself, if we have a run through of the actual parts, obviously as you can imagine I've debagged these already. What you're going to get is a nice little booklet which is going to cover sort of background information of the actual Spitfire, certainly a lot about the actual Battle of Britain where it fought, and so forth and so on, and some very nice reference pictures, especially of the engine at the back. So it's quite a nice little detailed reference to go through. There again though, don't forget these are museum aircraft that the actual photos have come from, and sometimes aren't exactly correct. So obviously check your references very carefully if you're going to do a fantastic detailed one of the actual aircraft you're doing, because obviously there might be some differences between the two, but it's certainly a very, very nice little start place. So we get that. The instructions themselves, as you might imagine, because it's a very complex kit, do tend to go on. But there again, usual thing, excellent call out to various parts. It's going to tell you what colours to paint them. Obviously they're in the Tamiya colours, so you might need reference charts for other things. But it's going to go on to show you exactly where to place them and do them. Now there is various versions for this, so obviously make sure when you're going along to make sure you've got the right version that you'll actually be doing. But as you say, it's very comprehensive, and I'm going to show you right the way through, step by step, about doing this one, because as I say, cockpits and things like that can be a little bit complicated on this. So we're going to go through that one like that. In here, I popped in, obviously we've got the decals, very, very nice as you can imagine with Tamiya, excellent all in register. There's a little display stand that comes with this, so we've got this little metal sticky label for that one, as well as a die cut photo etch, sorry, not photo etch, but die cut masking set for doing around the canopies and things like that, which is quite handy. Full colour call out sheet for all the paintwork, as you can imagine. There again, it's Tamiya's as we spoke before, but obviously this does call out for the actual cans as well, or the AS colours. So if you're seeing AS, you can actually cross-reference them with the new colours that have come out, which are very straightforward. So we can do those. Kits themselves, if we start to just run through a few of the little sprues with it, as you can imagine, the level of detail on these is amazing. Haven't seen anything as sort of detailed as this in riveting form to date. This is obviously the most far detailed one I've seen. Drawback is I've got a feeling that some of this excellent riveting might get lost under a couple of coats of paint. That's my only drawback to it, but certainly looking at it as we sit here, as you can see, everything's opened up on these wings, so as you can imagine, everything's going to be seen. So we're going to be able to do all the gun work, certainly, and bits and pieces like that. Just moving through a few of the sprues, obviously we've got the cockpits, you've got the side panels. Anyone who's done perhaps one of the 1/48 Tamiya Spitfires will know how detailed those are. Times it by 10, then you're going to get a rough idea for these parts. The clear parts are obviously very, very nice, but what we're going to do, we're going to dip these in future and give them a little bit more clarity, because they're just quite thick, and obviously because of the curvature on some of these parts, it does give a sort of looking through thick and thin glass type of effect. So we want to take care of that. We're going to keep that separate, stop that getting scratched. A couple of points. Tyres are rubber, as you can see here, so you might want to replace them at a later date, obviously, because they do tend to crumble over time. But these, on the other hand, are solid rubber. They're not hollow like some kit manufacturers do. Another little thing is obviously, we just hook that out of the way. You do get a stand for this one, so you can have it in flight as well, which is quite a nice little touch, which is something we'll be doing as well. So we can have it posed in flight or on the ground. Get a little box here, and if you're wondering what's in the little box, another box of goodies. Okay, photo etch fret. It's not as detailed perhaps as some of the other manufacturers out there who do the actual frets, certainly Ed Arden, people like that. But there again, it's a very nice starting place. And the bits that we get in here, like belts and harnesses and things like that, and obviously instrument panels, it will make a lot of difference to use these instead of using the normal plastic. So there we go, it's quite a nice touch. As I said, not as detailed, and I'm sure the aftermarket guys will be jumping on this quite soon. Bag of nuts and bolts, which will go through the build, which will be apparent later on. Now we do get these. We've got the engine cowlings here and the underpans and things like that for the different types. They're again extremely well detailed, unbelievably well detailed, and these little beauties are actually magnetic. So if you've ever had the thing about having your engine either covered or uncovered, you're making the decision. Great thing with the Tamiya one is obviously it won't matter because they're magnetic. You can show it on and off at the same time. Here's your little magnets you actually get, which little bag of magnets are very, very strong and very, very small, so you don't want to lose them, so leave them all bagged up. There we go, top of the actual engines themselves, the engine covers. There again, different types for different versions. The obligatory little screwdriver and some pins and that, which are obviously for some of the moving parts. So there we go, that's the run through of the actual bits. What I'm going to do now is get this all cleared away and all sorted out, and we get on with the build. Okay, so there's lots of different ways we can actually build this particular model. Obviously you can do the engine first or the cockpit first. So have a good look through your instructions and decide on which way you personally want to do it. I'm going to talk you through it as it is in the instructions, but as I say, I know there's a lot of different ways. Perhaps you might want to start with the engine and detail that, or the cockpit and various things. Obviously what we'll do, we'll change it slightly, so things like undercarriage and that will go on last. Okay, so first things up on the old instructions at part 1 is adding the back tail area on. Now, the actual locating pins as they hold on to these are quite cleverly done these days. Because what you can actually do is snip them off from the side like this. Okay, and then here we are on the close-up cam, you might be able to see, but we get these actual tabs are actually now, instead of on the edge, as you can see, you might be able to see it on this edge here, which is quite nice. So if we just bring you in a little bit closer. But they're on there. So getting them off, you can actually come along with your knife, just like this, and then just literally nick them off. Now just keep your knife flat with it and take them off. And that's better than doing it from the top, because obviously sometimes you make a little scoop. Now I've got one of these little thin files here, which is quite nice because you don't overdo the area. And it's just a very fine grade of about 240 grit. So it's not digging into it too much. And we can just take this top one out as well. In there, just like that. And clean them up, and it makes for a nice little joint. So then what we can actually do with the actual back part here, what this actually does is just go in here. So test fit first, and it goes on, and it's a lovely little fit. So what we can do, we can actually just put a drop of glue, extra thin Tamiya, just around those areas, and we're just going to sit this on, and it just fits in just like that, and it's a perfect fit. So what we can actually do, we'll just test the back areas in just like that, just to make sure it all goes along. We'll just put a little bit at the back there and glue those areas up. Very straightforward, very, very simple. Now obviously when you decide on how you're going to do this, painting it now or afterwards, what I tend to do, if you follow a lot of my builds, is I actually do all the build work and then we'll spray it all in one, and it's the same we're going to do with this one, and then we can pick out all the little details as we go. So, for instance, on this particular one, we've got a couple of parts that go in the inside. Now, we've cleaned some of these up already. So, we've actually got a little, we've got a radio, which is going to fit in here. We've got this little part here, and we've got these two. Now, these glue into the actual locating marks just on this, which is pretty straightforward. So, if we just do this one for the moment, we've actually got this little one with all the buttons is going to go up here. So there again, we're going to put in a little bit of Tamiya, extra thin, just in like that. Okay, and then this one will go fit in there. Then what we're going to do, we're going to spray all of these, and then we're going to come along afterwards and we can put them all right. So that's that one in. Obviously it's a different type, so look for the one you actually want with these. This is the one with the little buttons up. Obviously if you're doing the C version, you will need this one here, which has got the long bar, so we don't need that one. That will go out of the way. And then same on the other part of the fuselage. Just make sure we get it all right where it's going. This one's going up here, so a little bit of extra thin. And this one can go in there. Now you might be thinking, why put them in now? Wouldn't it be easier to do it afterwards? Trouble is though, you end up with glue marks and things like that. So this way, it just makes it a lot easier to actually do it. And then the same, we've got the radio, which is going to fit up at the front. So we put a part there. Okay. And then the radio should fit. Get it around the right way. Always helps. There we go, and that's the radio in there as well. Make sure it's all in properly as it should be. And as I say, once we get these painted up and everything else like that, we can come along afterwards and pick these out with a fine brush. So that's those pretty straightforward. One bit of screw out the way already. Okay, so the next part we actually can move on to, we'll just leave those at one side just to dry. We've got the actual rudder pedal system here, which is in part 4. Which we'll do now, and then we can make our way through the instrument panel. The little rudder pedals, they come with 2 little tabs each side, so you can just simply snip them off, just like this, 1 and 2. Okay, and then just a little sand, just take off any little rough edges off of those like that. Same on the other side, just like so. Okay, and then obviously this part is going to be silver underneath, but there again, what we're going to do, we're going to spray all this as a whole, and then we can pick out details as is needed afterwards. So we're just putting a little bit of extra thin in those areas. Sit that one down on the top just like that. Okay, and then we can just put a drop of extra thin in each one of the little pedal locators, and make sure you have them the right way round. That's 1 in. That's 2 in. Obviously you just want them all squared up facing you, wherever which way you want it. So we just make sure that one's actually around the wrong way. Pop around that way. Okay, so make sure you're all squared up and facing each other. Then as I say, this will be spray green, and then obviously what will happen is we'll go around and pick it up, so that can be just left to one side. That's very straightforward. Okay, so the next part we've got to do, we've got to make up in part number 3, which is the actual compass holder. Now for that is the piece of photo etch, so in this case it's number A and it's number 16. So I don't agree with putting it down and cutting it, because sometimes what actually happens is you bend the little corners and it doesn't keep it flat. I like to use my scissors, so literally we're just going to pop this in and just with the tip of the scissors just nick it off. You can let it ping off. There we go, that's that part just like this. Okay, so now what we need to do is bend all this up and sort it out. So for that I've actually got some Tamiya bending pliers, which are quite handy little tools. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start with the edge ones first, so we'll just bend them up. So we just literally clamp the part up to the bend. Okay, so we bend that up just like that. Okay, and then we're just going to bend the back part up. Okay, so that's all the backs bent up, and then what we'll do in a moment, once we've actually got the little compass in the middle there, we'll actually bend the edges up as well. But for the moment we're going to leave that down, because what we're going to do is actually paint it black, and then we can install the little parts of compass. Now the compass part itself is a clear part, so over here on your clear sprue, we just need to pop him out, and he is number 21. Sorry, he's not on that. He's number F21. I thought it'd be a clear part, but he's not. So you pop over to F sprue, looking for number 21. They're pretty alphabetical. So here he is, number 21. And because he's not a clear part, what we'll do is we'll paint him all separately. So we're going to pop this in, paint in black, and then we'll pick out the details, which makes it a little bit easier. Round part, just in with a soft file. Just off like that. Okay, and then because obviously we're going on to photo etch and plastic parts, obviously normal glues won't work. So we've got here some super glue. I've got some Zappa Gap, this is the medium one. So what we do is we just get a little bit of 40mm tape. You could use any tape. This is just saving the bench getting all horrible. So if we can get this off the roll. Just a little bit. So we just pop this down here. Tiny little drop. Okay. In with a little cocktail stick, just like this. So then all we're going to do is just going to put a tiny little drop in on the bottom, just so it's got somewhere to stick to. Then if you look at the bottom, it's got little feet that poke out. So then hopefully it should just come along and sit in. So we just use the other end of the stick, settle that down. In there, we just need to walk him over just a little fraction. And without sticking yourself to it, which is always the tricky part. That sits in like that, and then you can literally just push up the sides in there, which actually completes the area itself. So here we go, that one's done. We'll just leave that off to dry on one side as well. And then obviously what will happen is that will fit in amongst the actual parts here. So we've actually got, if we just make sure we've got all this the right way round. So what we're going to do, we're just going to come along, grab our bit of super glue again, because obviously it's photo etch, just onto the back part up there. And then this part should just go to the back and will hang down. And there we go, that sticks to the back section like that. And then this part here will glue in to the back just like so. And we can go around and clean up all these parts afterwards. So we just put a bit of extra thin all around the back. Just like that, so we can leave that one side just all dry off now. So we've basically, in those ones, we've done parts of 1 to 4. All happy with those. Okay. Okay, so what we've got now is parts 5 and 6. There again, this is the control column and actually sort of marrying up these parts together. So what we've got down here, we've got all the parts already cut out. We've just got this one to go. You've got to remove this little tab on the side here. So we just nip him off with a pair of scissors. Just like so, and then obviously you can just clean them up with a knife or with a sanding stick, just to make that a bit nicer, just like so. Okay, so if we start with the control column, we've got the main part, which is this one here, which is part F9, and then what we're going to do is actually add the top handle to that. Now there's a little bit of photo etch to go on top of this as well, so we're just going to blob in there like that. Okay, and then we're just going to take the stick itself, I'm going to stick that to it. Now I do believe it should be cantilevered slightly over just a little bit, so we'll just do that like that. And then obviously on the other side we've got to actually put on a tiniest little bit of photo etch, which is down here. But what I'm going to do is let that dry off just for a moment, and then we'll come back to that. Down at the bottom here we've got a little hole, so we just put a drop of glue in there. And then we've actually got this part here, which is part F4, is going to stick right in there like so. I do believe it's that way around. Okay, which is pretty straightforward. Okay, so we're just going to put that off to one side to dry a moment. And at the same time we can do this bottom part. So actually what we've got here, we've got part number F1, F39, F38. Okay. And then obviously we've got this bottom one, so let's just have a little bit of a fiddle with these first, just to see how all this is going to go. So we're just going to test fit this first, just to see how it's going to sit and how it's all going to go, because it's not exactly totally square, straightforward on the instructions, but we'll do a little bit of extra thin just down in here, down in that point there. Okay. And then we're just going to sit this guy in here. So we'll let the glue just bite there a moment. Okay, then the control column. I'm being a bit careful, we'll just get this tiny bit of glue. It's going to sit in here. Now remember, when you're doing little bits like this, the least amount of glue you can use is the best, because obviously if you put too much glue in, it's just going to swim the area and it doesn't particularly want to set and dry. So what we'll do is now, I'm just going to put tiny bits of glue in here and there, just to keep all those parts all nice. And then what we'll do, we're just going to pop these in. And that all sits just like so. So it's not the most straightforward part to do. Just keep an eye on the instructions and follow them through how they go, and it's pretty much straightforward from there. So what we're going to do, we're just going to sit that there just to stand up, just to dry off a sec. And we can get a few of these photo etch parts. There's a couple of tabs on this one here. This is part number F10. You've got to take those off first, and then what we've got to do is just fit this on. So we're just seeing how all this goes. So if we just take the photo etch part using our benders again, just to see how this is going to go, because apparently this is going to bend up on itself. So we can do that. And I'm just worried which way it's going to bend, so we're going to take a chance here and bend it this way so the detail is on the outside. So that's on. So using our super glue and cocktail stick, little trick we've got going over here, we just put a bit on there just like so, and then making sure we've all got this the right way. What we're going to do is just going to stick this on just like that. So that goes on pretty straightforward, hanging on like that. And then we're just going to make sure it's all square and pushed in correctly, to which we are. So it's quite a strange one, that one, but it's going to sit on the end just like that. Okay, so that's that one done, and then we should be able to bring these together a little bit now. So if we just carefully put that to one side. Obviously we've got instrument panels and things to go on here yet. Now I deliberately haven't done those. I'm going to show you a little trick about how to paint around it and then come back to it at the end. So obviously all those bits can just be put on at the last part. So for the moment here we're just going to worry about putting the other bits in. So we've got the actual control column itself, which will hopefully fit up in here. So you've got a slit at the back for the rear one to go in, and then one at the front. And the control column is a little bit forward for my liking, because what we can do, we can slip the actual instrument panel and the parts in behind it. It's just that obviously it's going to be a lot easier to go around and paint this as an afterthought than it is at this precise moment. Okay, so that's those on just like that, and then we've got to get in the actual main pedals themselves, which I do believe we should have done afterwards. Hold on, if we just take this out one moment, we've got this slightly in the wrong order. We've got to get the pedals in first, which are going to fit in just like so. So we're just going to put a drop of glue at the back just to hold those in. A second, try that again with the panel, and there we go, it all locks all three together just like so. So as you see, you should end up with something like this. So up here we've got the handle at the top here, okay, and then coming through. So as I say, if I just bring you in a little bit, it's a bit complicated the way it all goes, but just watch the instructions, take your time, test fit it before you put any glue in, and you should be fine. So what we're just going to do is put a touch of glue in just down here, just to hold all those in. See, it can all be drop tested now. Okay, so now we can just put in the handle part. So I'm guessing the handle goes to the forward, so that just fits through. And there we go. So it sits in something like that. So we just check our pictures of how we all stand and everything else. So I'm very happy with all how that is. So there we go. That's our first little sub-assembly done there. Quite straightforward, but just take your time with it. Now this instrument panel will get fitted in a second. Before actually when we come to painting, because obviously this section is going to be black, which is quite straightforward. So what we're going to do is on with the clear parts all coming in the back with the actual decals on there. Obviously if we was to spray them now you wouldn't be able to see it, so we want to do that as a separate. At the same time as well, as is in part 6, you can see you've got your photo etch part, which obviously you'll make your decision on which one it is for the different variant you're going to do, and your clear part, which obviously is the back of the instrument, which fits on like this and then sticks to the front of this panel here. So what we want to do is literally put the panel on first, spray it all, and then we can all put them in the back, and away we go. So if we just, what we're going to do is set the panel on like so. So we have the panel on, and what we do is put a drop of super glue on the back just to hold it in place. So actually what we can do is we do a little trick here. If you just use a cocktail stick just like this and just push slightly to the edge, and what it'll do, it'll just put a tiny little part over the edge of it like that. So when this comes in, make sure you've got it the right way up and everything else like that, but hopefully this will just drop in and will fit on. And then what you can do, you can just make sure your instrument panel is going to fit on the back, which it does, so we know we're all okay. We just pop that off the back because we don't want it to glue in place just yet. So we'll let that set go off, and then we can paint all this black, dry brush to bring up the details, pick out the colours. When we're quite happy with it, we can then actually put these clear parts on the back, put the decals on, and then put it all in together.